Hey guys, welcome back. So you probably saw my last video, and if you didn't, you can go watch it. But I announced basically that my show will be essentially postponed. I didn't mean when I said I am, temporarily canceling it. That in no way is implying that I'm getting rid of it forever. But you know what? It's only been a day and I decided to come back. But I also had to factory reset my phone. So I will be posting videos, but it'll be, once or twice a week. Maybe every, at most, 4 or 5 times a week. I'm not going to be posting every single day. And I'm not going to be posting a video, more than one video per day that I post. I've been posting way too frequently, and a lot of people have gotten annoyed by that because there's no way they can keep up with it all. But another big issue has been the storage on my phone. This video will probably take a couple days before it uploads just because I don't have internet at home on my phone right now. Because, I factory reset my phone and my dad's out of town, so, yeah. So, in the news today, there was another shooting. Always sad, always tragic when people are shot up, people are killed. It's really, really sad, and my heart definitely goes out to the families of the victims of this massacre. But, the one thing I can't stand is when people use the acts of certain individuals to justify taking away the rights to bear arms from all people. Right? They are in full force trying to ban so-called assault weapons, AR-15s and AK-47s, to be precise. But the thing is, all rifles combined make up less than 5% of all gun-related crimes. That is homicides, suicides. And another thing, when they say the United States is one of the highest in terms of gun crime, we're also the only ones who count suicide in our statistics. So, in reality, since 60% of United States gun crimes are suicides, and also mass shootings count as anyone killing more, or anyone who injures more than 4 people. In a lot of the mass shooting cases, no one actually dies. So in reality, the number is a lot lower than what they're pushing, but they're pushing the number as super, super high so that they can see it as something urgent to ban so-called assault weapons. Even when you do the math, all rifles combined still make up less than 5% of all gun-related crimes, including homicide, including suicide, including mass shooting. Like, if you remember, there was a shooting in LA a few months ago, and that was done with a handgun. And the thing is, even if you outlaw it, you're not going to stop. Like, people can literally 3D print guns. They can make guns from home now. I know a gunsmith. Like, I personally am friends with the son of a gunsmith. You can't stop people from making guns. You can't stop guns. I mean, it's hard to stop guns from getting into the wrong hands, and I personally have a hard time trusting government to do that. Looking at history, Hitler didn't take away all the guns. He only took away the guns from those he deemed, inferior, those he felt weren't qualified. That's part of why I don't trust government in general to regulate gun ownership. And I already made a video about the Second Amendment, right? The words of the founders are very, very clear, and you cannot mistake that. Shall not be infringed implies that the people have the very same right to bear any and all arms that the government does. All gun bans are unconstitutional. All gun bans are unjust. Period. Right? When I say all, I mean machine guns, anything fully automatic, even tanks and bombs, for all I care, right? The thing is, people say, oh my gosh, you want everybody to own a tank? Oh, except no, because not nearly everyone is going to be able to afford a tank. There might be one tank in every community. There might be one tank for every 3 or 4 communities, protecting them all. Same goes for nukes. Nukes are incredibly expensive. There might be one nuke for every, 100,000 people, right? They share them. It's not like one person, like McDonald's. Oh my God, McDonald's is gonna own all the nukes and they're gonna nuke Burger King for stealing their recipe. No, that's an absurd straw man of anarcho-capitalism. In reality, though, honestly, I want the world to denuclearize. And I think, truth be told, most people do. I'm not a pacifist, but I am a non-aggressionist. And nukes are vehemently aggressive in the sense that they harm, so if you're gonna drop a bomb on someone, on one specific person, they're gonna harm the thousands of people around too. So in reality, the world as a whole should denuclearize. And that's one thing I like about President Trump. He's talked about denuclearizing with North Korea and with Russia, and I think that's great. He should follow through with that. He should certainly get them to cut their military budget, and we should cut our military budget. We need to bring the troops home, stop being the police of the world, denuclearize, get rid of a shit ton of our bombs and stuff like that, because we don't need them, we don't want them, we want to be a peaceful nation, right? We can be a safe nation, and the reason we can be a safe nation is because the people have the right to keep and bear arms. Right? That's the one reason the United States has never been invaded, because the people themselves have the right to keep and bear arms. Right? If you remember the rape of Nanjing, where the Japanese went to China and mass raped and murdered their women and young children. That's an excellent reason to give the people the right to keep and bear arms. You never know when Canada or Mexico is gonna, the Canadians or the Mexicans are gonna rise up and start raping all our women because we're at war, right? We were at war with Mexico a few hundred years ago, right? It wasn't that long ago when we were battling for Texas. And that could happen again. Don't pretend that just because we're at peace now that we can be at peace forever, right? The right of the American people to keep and bear arms is one of the many things that keeps us very, very safe compared to other nations. Not to mention the fact that compared to the homicide and suicide rate by gun, the amount of people who use their guns in home defense is absurdly high. Like, anywhere between an extremely conservative estimate is 500,000 a year. A much more liberal estimate is around 3 million per year. And depending on the year, it's anywhere between that. That's still a lot more than, the 5,000 people killed by guns every year. I don't want people dead, but I'd rather allow people to protect themselves from potentially being killed or raped or robbed than have more people be killed and raped and robbed. Because when seconds count, the police, who are also a problem a lot of the time, are only an average of 15 minutes away. If you live in rural America or extremely urban America where the police are busy all the time, they could be up to an hour away for all you know, and you gotta be prepared. Not only that, but NYPD and LAPD and Chicago PD and Milwaukee PD, big city police departments in general have a shit ton of corrupt cops, right? And the one way you can, regulate bad cops is by owning a gun, tell them to, get in their place. That's what's happening in Virginia as we speak. because, you know, the governor of Virginia, the blackface, white supremacist Democrat governor, is calling for gun control. And the irony of all this is the fact that the leftists are calling the gun advocates white supremacists when the mayor is, or the governor is literally has literally been caught wearing blackface and posing in a picture with a dude who was dressed up as a Klansman, right? So this guy, at least in his young years, was literally a white nationalist, and yet you're accusing the people who just want to keep and bear arms of being white supremacists. That's fucking ridiculous, and that's why you're losing. Another reason why you're losing is because, you know, this little thing called the Second Amendment, a lot of people believe that there should be regulations to it, like certain guns are okay being banned, but, you know, I think even the vast majority of Americans would agree not nearly all guns should be banned. And right now, there are a lot of people on the existing left who straight up, unironically, want to ban all firearms from Americans. And that is pushing more centrists and independents and moderates, which more than 40% of Americans are now, more to the right. They'll vote for Trump out of necessity. Trump's not even a pro-gun guy. He banned bump stocks. He supports raising the minimum age to purchase a rifle. He supports federal background checks. He supports red flag laws. A bunch of these things that, in my view, are unjust and unconstitutional. And in the views of many people on the right, are also unconstitutional. But because we're sort of trapped in this duopoly mentality, people are going to vote Republican because it's sort of the lesser of two evils when it comes to the issue of gun control. Now, there are some awesome Democrats out there who are also vehemently pro-gun. Let's talk about Hal Schaus of Georgia. This man is incredible. I love Hal. He ran for U.S. Senate, but didn't have nearly enough money to get his campaign to, take off. So he had to cancel his campaign, which is sad. He's a poor guy and he spent thousands of dollars on his campaign for effectively nothing. But, it's working because I saw his ad and it was fantastic. It even featured Epstein didn't kill himself, which is great. So yeah, right to bear arms is very, very important to me. I'm back, and I will be back for a while. And another thing I wanted to talk about today as well. So I was reading on AndroidCentral.com, and I was noticing something that I really don't like. Smartphones are getting way, way too expensive. So, Android Central has an article here that says the best Galaxy S20 Ultra is going to cost you nearly $2,000. The lineup leak was revealed. It revealed renders, available colors, and pricing over in Europe. It looks really cool. It's got a bunch of pictures, a bunch of cool colors and stuff, like cosmic gray, cosmic black, cloud blue, and cool stuff like that. And then the base model, Galaxy S20, looks like it's going to start at $900, and then the 5G S20 is going to be $1,000. And then the 5G Plus is going to be $1,100. And then the basic S20 for the Ultra 5G or whatever, or the Ultra S20 Ultra 4G is going to be $1,400, and then the S20 Ultra 5G is going to be $1,500 in euros. So converting euros to dollars, that's $1,711 for one freaking Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G basic model. And then you can get up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, up to 512 gigabytes of storage. And for a maxed out Galaxy S20 Ultra, it's gonna cost over $2,000. Which I can understand why, right? The cameras are fantastic. It's the fastest, most powerful device Samsung has ever made. It's got an incredible display. There's pretty much nothing bad about it, but $2,000 is still way too much to ask for a smartphone, right? I don't care what company you are, whether you're Apple, Samsung, or freaking Motorola. $2,000 is way, way too much to pay for a smartphone, right? And if you look at the production cost, I'm willing to bet the S20 Ultra, 512 gigabyte, maxed out S20 Ultra costs like $700 or $800 to manufacture, if that. And they're selling it for $2,000. That doesn't seem very, very consumer oriented to me. See, what Apple and Samsung in particular have been very guilty of doing is their big advantage is having huge consumer bases. Like here in the US, Apple is 45% of our market and Samsung is another like 35%. Then we've got, Motorola and LG are both super popular as well. But Samsung and Apple, because they're so well established, not only in the US but around the world, they can pretty much charge whatever the hell they want and people will just cough it up, But at the same time, people are realizing this, and that's the big reason why the mid-range smartphone market is becoming so much more popular. Right, as I mentioned, my current phone is a Samsung Galaxy S10e. It cost, at launch, somewhere around $700. And this one's costing $25 a month for 2 years. So it's not that bad, right? I believe that mid-range phones in general, phones between $500 and $800 are better value than the $1,000 to $2,000 phones, right? If you want the best of the best, go with the $2,000 phone. And then within a year, your phone's price is going to drop by like $400 at least. And it's not going to be the best of the best within a year. Hell, within a few months. So is it even worth it to buy the best of the best if the best of the best is only the best of the best for a few months? Is it worth spending $2,000 on a brand new smartphone when that brand new smartphone won't be brand new in 5 or 6 months? When that $2,000 smartphone will cost like $1,200 in 3-4 months, it'll cost like $900 in a year and a half. It'll cost like $700 in 2-3 years. It'll cost like $400 in 5 years. Think about it, right? If you're spending $2,000 on a device, you'd expect that device to be incredibly high quality and not have a lot of competition. The fact is, technology in general is growing at such a fast pace. It's getting so much better and better every year that literally within the very next year of you purchasing a device, it may still work really well, but if you want the best, that's not what you're getting, right? So do you want to spend $2,000 on the best of the best every single year? Or do you want to make an investment on a $500, $600, $700 phone? And, it'll last you at least 2 years, if not like 3 to 5, I think that's a better investment personally. I don't care what kind of phone it is, whether it's like, I know that Samsung, they've got like the S8 or the Note 8 going out for like, I don't know, like $400-500 right now. The S9 is like $600-700, and so is the Note 9. Whereas the Note 10 is over $1,000 in most cases. And Apple, they've got their last year, the XS, the XS Max are like $800 now. The 10R is like $500, and then they're still selling the 8 and the 7 for like $300-400. It's really good. It's honestly those phones that are 2-3 years old. If you're not gonna get, if you're looking for a brand new phone, obviously that's not what you want. But those phones that are 2-3 years old that still work really well, that is where you're gonna get your value. For example, my mom has a Pixel 2. The Pixel 2 is, of course, 2 years old now. It came out in late 2017. She's had it. So yeah, she's had it for like 2 years and a few months. I think she got it for Christmas from my dad. And so yeah, we've had it. And it's an $800 phone that has so far lasted 2 years, and it'll probably, knowing my mom, last another 2. Because the thing is, you don't always need all the best specs. You don't always need, all you really need is something that functions, that has plenty of storage space, right? Things of that regard. Another awesome thing is, how about companies like OnePlus? OnePlus has been the king of what are known as flagship killers. These are devices that sacrifice things like wireless charging so that they can compete really well with the $1,000 phones while still costing a mid-range price. When OnePlus devices first came out, they were much, much cheaper than your Samsungs and your iPhones. Now, they're still a bit pricey, like right around $800 for their latest highest tier model. But, right, their last generation, they're still selling for like, $400 or $500, something like that. So they have some really low price, really good devices that aren't very old for some, really genuine, great value prices for the quality that they provide, right? For example, OnePlus provides an incredible, extremely fast cord charging feature. They can charge from 0 to full in, less than an hour, like, 40 minutes, something like that. It's really not that long, and it's kind of cool, actually. They've got, the OnePlus is one of the fastest devices on the market by far. That's why they have a McLaren partnership, in which, they brag about how essentially how fast their device is because it's so dang fast. So yeah, OnePlus is a great alternative to Samsung and Apple in general. Because, let's face it, phones are getting way too expensive and we need to do something about it as consumers. Now listen, I know what you're thinking. Michael, why the hell are you talking about localization again? Isn't this like the 7th time you've talked about that on this channel? And yes, it probably is. Might only be the 2nd or 3rd, I don't even know. But listen, localization of government is a very, very important concept. The reason why is pretty simple. Whether you're progressive or conservative or somewhere in the middle, it allows us all to get our way, right? When you have a big federal government, it's really hard for the losing team to live in peace with the winning team. Because the winning team is going to force the losing team to bow down to their will. And they're going to say, if you don't like it, leave. It's really hard to leave a country, right? It costs thousands of dollars. You're moving really far away from family and friends. You have a job, things like that. But leaving this one state to another is quite a bit easier, right? So if you don't like, in a localized society, if you don't like the policies in, say, California or New York or Massachusetts or Vermont, then you can move to Texas or Utah or Arizona or, somewhere like that. You can move, if you don't like the policies in California, you can move to Texas. Likewise, if you don't like the policies in Texas, you can move to California or New York or New Hampshire or Massachusetts. Right? But if we have a big, strong federal government, it's a lot harder to move countries because countries tend to have closed borders, right? Not only does the US have a very closed immigration system where it's very hard to get in, especially if you're coming from the South, but most other countries you go to, whether you go to Canada or Mexico, it's really hard to get in and become a citizen of another country. Immigration costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. You, a lot of the time, have to learn another language, adapt to another culture. It's just a really hard thing to do in general. But moving from one state to another, that's not as hard. Especially if you work from home, if you're self-employed, or if you can find job opportunities in other countries, in other states. So another thing is, it allows us, like I said, it allows us both to have our way. So like, for example, if Bernie Sanders wants a $15 minimum wage and Medicare for all, he can do that in Vermont. And then those of us in Utah who don't want that can choose not to have it. And then those who want Medicare for all and a $15 minimum wage can move to Vermont or to California or to New York. You see, it allows us both to get our ways. It allows for the best of both worlds. And that is ultimately why localization is so amazing. With a strong federal government, you can't do that. You can't just escape, go from one state to another and expect any big difference in policy, right? If there's gun control federally, then you can't own guns, certain types of guns in any state. But for example, if California has strict gun laws, but Texas doesn't, you can move to Texas if you want to be a big gun owner, So it just allows us to coexist with one another so much more easily. That's why I think, regardless of whether you're progressive or conservative or libertarian or whatever, you should support localization, giving as much power to your local or state government as possible and giving much, much less power to the federal government. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or neither, or you sympathize with both. You should absolutely support localization. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.